computer. So again, guys, thank you so very much for taking time on this Sunday evening. It is, can you guys believe it's the last team call of June, which is crazy, means, you know, the year is just going by. It is zooming by. I feel like as we get older, time just like flies by. We're like, where does the time go? And just thank you so much for giving us your most valuable asset, which is your time, guys. At the end of the day, all of you are entrepreneurs working really hard so that you can really increase your time at home to do the things that you enjoy. So we do not take it lightly. This is an investment that you make every single week. So we definitely appreciate it. I'm really excited about our guest speaker this evening. Before I go ahead and introduce her, just a couple quick announcements. So we still have a few more days left to hit Success Club. So make sure that you are reaching out to people and planting those seeds, especially, and if you've already hit Success Club, start planting those seeds and talking about MBF, Muscle Burns Fat, which is coming out July 7th, guys. This is going to be a massive, massive launch. And I really think it's gonna be like the next version of our 21-day fix. And so, you know, for those of you who were around when that was around, it was a huge hit. And so I have a feeling that this is going to be another huge hit. So start talking about it now. I already have started a list of people who are interested in it. I am promoting it. I will go harder this week and next week promoting it. So just make sure that you are talking about it because it's going to be a fantastic deal. If you have not watched Chelsea's call on it, make sure that you go back and watch that team call. She went over all the details about it. So just make sure that you are checking it out and make sure that you watch that recording. It's in the team page. So just make sure of that. Also tomorrow we have a new coach call. So Hannah will be running that call. So it's tomorrow at 7 p.m. So make sure that if you are a new coach on our team that you check that out. Also, Chelsea shared a resource today that's pinned at the top of the announcements, which is going to go into July, which is going to be Power Hour times for July. So make sure you take a look at that. And then we'll also have some Power Hours this week, but not as many because, again, we have that great resource that she has provided. So we'll definitely plan on leaning on that in July because you guys know I don't like to repeat things that are already being done. It just whatever's simple, whatever's easy for all of us. But I definitely want to provide that as a resource. So with that being said, I want to introduce our speaker. I'm really excited. This is someone, it's someone that I met actually at a Tony Robbins event. I know many of you have been watching the Tony Robbins Comeback Challenge. If you haven't, make sure that you guys join that 7-day challenge. It's free over on Facebook. It's a ton of value for those who have been watching it and have not ever been exposed to it. They're like, wow, like everyone who's watched it and who has never heard Tony speak, they're very much impressed. And so it's a great opportunity to get some insight into some of his teachings. You guys know that myself and Luke were huge Tony Robbins fans. And so is Megan, who will be speaking with us. And it's actually how her and her husband are ER doctors. They're in my field as well. And we met, and Megan's actually a dancer. She loves to dance. And so she loves to dance salsa. She loves salsa. And we were just chatting about how the studio opened up by her locally. So her and Luke had a lot to talk about as well. But she's someone who absolutely adores personal development, understands the benefit of personal development. She's an entrepreneur herself. She'll share a little bit of her story. And then if you guys have any questions related to photography, please start putting anything that comes up, please put it in the chat box. We'll leave some time at the end for Q&A. Also, Megan has provided 2 blog posts of hers for more in-depth details. So I'll go ahead and share that in the team page and in the event page after. But yes, so with that said, please everyone give your attention to Megan. So go ahead, we'll unmute you, Megan. Let's see, unmute yourself. There you go.
Hi guys, can you hear me well? Okay, so thank you so much, Stephanie, for inviting me to be here. I love talking about photography, so I'm super excited to be able to share some of the things I've learned over the years, some of my journey, my story, and also some tips for you guys, because, we live in a digital world. We all putting out pictures every single day, whether it's pictures of us or our families or friends, for our businesses, whatever, it's a lot has to do with photography. So I hope I can bring you some value. And, if you guys have any questions, I'd love to answer them. I'm gonna share my screen. I did put together a presentation for you guys. So let me share it. Let me try to do this right way. Am I sharing my screen? Yeah, okay. Let me do the presentation. Okay, perfect. Can you guys see it? Okay. So my full name is Megan Kwasniak. I am an ER physician, but also a photographer. I've been doing photography for a really long time. So I'm going to show you, tell you guys a little bit of my story. I'm Megan Kwasniak on all social media handles. If you want to find me, follow me, and also learn some more tips and tricks when it comes to taking photographs. You can find me under just my name. So I started taking photography classes when I was in college. My last year of undergrad, I took a film photography class and was totally hooked. I always loved pictures. I just never knew how to take them. So when the opportunity came to take a class, I took a class. It was film back then. There was no digital cameras yet. Yes, it's a long time ago. But it was a lot of fun, and we got to develop our own film. We got to go to the dark room. We got to do all the cool stuff, and it was just a delight to watch all the photographs come up, you know, in the dark room during the process. So I was really hooked on that. But you know, I never thought I would like do photography or be a full-time photographer, or professional photographer, or anything like that. I always wanted to go to med school. So I went to med school, and ironically, I got my first digital camera when I was a med student, and then just kept shooting throughout those years of medical school. I got into residency in New York, emergency medicine, and it was a busy time. I wasn't able to develop myself as much during those times, but I still kept taking pictures, and I was traveling a lot. And whenever I traveled, I took pictures. In terms of education, other than that formal class in college, I took some photography workshops with famous photographers like Joe McNally, who's a Nat Geo photographer, and Peter Turney, who has been a photojournalist for many years. So I kind of pursued these educational opportunities on my own, and just put in, you know, all my efforts into being the best that I can. So a lot of self-education too. So far, you know, I'm really grateful and excited that, because I've been doing it for so long, you know, at this point I have had some accomplishments. I had a solo gallery exhibit in my area where I live, which is Florida. I was a finalist in a few photography festivals in Miami, in Milan, in Italy, in Bulgaria. Also my home country in Poland, one of my photographs was exhibited there. I got a couple of photos published in Travel Magazine, which is a digital travel mag for photography. And The Guardian actually published one of my photos, which was super exciting. I was interviewed on a photography podcast, as well as just a regular entertainment podcast too. So I'm very excited to share that with you, just so you guys know I'm not just pulling stuff out of my, you know, not making stuff up, but I have gotten some accomplishments to this point. So the whole thing with photography really started with travel. Travel is my absolute passion. I've been traveling for a long time, as long as I can remember, you know, even as a college student. And I feel like travel and photography are intricately tied together, because when you go to these places, you want to document your journey, you want to document your time. So naturally, you know, camera becomes a part of you. And with that, you know, as you travel more, you become a better photographer, you know how to capture more things, and you just build a portfolio of work. So travel is how it all started for me. And to this day is one of the, you know, my biggest passions and things that I'm always pursuing. I just wanted to show you guys some of my work. You know, I kind of travel all over. I don't really have a particular place that I care to go. If an opportunity arises to go somewhere, I just do it. I take the opportunity and go. I went to Iceland last year, Bolivia a couple of years ago. So these are some of the examples. And this photograph was taken in Jordan. I went to Sri Lanka. I was definitely on one of my lists of places I wanted to go. It's a beautiful place, a tropical island off the coast of India. Me and my best friend went there together. Been wanting to see that for the longest time. Lots of opportunity for photographs over there. I've been to South Africa a couple of times already, actually one of the most beautiful places I've ever visited. You know, wonderful landscape, amazing people, just a great place to visit. So I took a bunch of, I photographed a lot there. This is another picture from Jordan. The desert is called Wadi Rum, and it's a popular place for visitors, but just one of the most spectacular landscapes I've ever seen. I love taking portraits of people when I travel. This is a portrait of a little girl in Sri Lanka. You know, I'm always trying to take photographs of people. I actually prefer that to landscapes. I'm always stopping people on the street or just trying to capture portraits, capturing candidates or a little bit posed, but always drawn to people and faces. This is another picture I took in South Africa. It was actually like a local bar we went to. It was beautiful lighting. We'll talk a little bit about lighting in a minute, but there was all these men there smoking and this beautiful light coming in through the window. So I took a bunch of photographs there. They didn't mind. They actually enjoyed being photographed. So got a lot of nice pictures there. This was on the streets of South Africa, kids just playing. I always try to catch situations in the most candid of moments. The little girls were just having a good time, doing jump rope, and let me photograph them. It was a really, really cool time. I went to Cuba 3 times. Cuba is a wonderful place to photograph. You have the colorful streets and people, and just, it's an island kind of feels stuck in time. So not many places like this you'll see in the world where, you have that 1950s feeling and it doesn't feel posed. It's just the way the life is. So I've been taking photographs there for a long time. Iceland again, I got to see the Northern Lights. It was the most beautiful thing ever. I would love to see them again one day. It's just magical. I don't know if cameras can capture that feeling, but it was amazing. So, I do a lot of travel photography, which kind of, I feel, encompasses a lot of different things. It encompasses, as you guys saw in those pictures, it encompasses some landscapes. It encompasses portraiture, taking photos of people on the street. Wherever you go, you meet different local people, you chat up with them, you want to take pictures. It encompasses some street photographs. So there's a lot of different things that go into travel photography, which is, I feel it's easy to translate into taking photos at home, or taking photos of your family, or taking photos of yourself, self-portraits, things like that. So I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about, how to take pictures. And Stephanie and I, she told me a lot about you guys, and you have, a lot of you are entrepreneurs and moms, and I'm sure everybody wants to improve the photos for their social media and their websites and whatever that may be. So I actually wanted to talk to you guys about this. And, sometimes it's daunting. It feels like, oh, photography is so hard. It's really hard to take good pictures. I can't do it, or you need a fancy camera. And I'm going to tell you guys, number one, you definitely don't need a fancy camera. As a matter of fact, I tell people, please don't buy a new camera. All my friends, people reach out to me all the time. They're like, what camera should I buy? Should I get a DSLR, which is one of the ones with the, changeable lenses? What should I do? And I actually tell people, don't buy a new camera. Instead of buying a new camera, use the one you already have, but learn basics of photography. Learn things that are going to improve your photos instantly, and you don't need a fancy equipment for that. And actually, a lot of times, fancy equipment will prevent you or like hinder your process, because you want to learn all the buttons and there's change this, change that, add that, and it just becomes so complicated, when in reality it's really, really simple if you learn a few basic concepts. So I wanted to tell you guys this. Now, of course, you know, later if you start shooting and you start noticing that your pictures are getting better, and now you want to shoot this or that, and you feel that maybe that iPhone no longer allows you to do that, then yes, then I would say, okay, go and buy that camera. But at the beginning, just focus on improving your pictures, improving your process, and just use whatever camera you have, including the iPhone or whatever phone you have. So I found this cool quote on Canva, but I think it really applies to photographers. You know, if you could just take out the word cinema and put photography, it you know, it's perfect. Taking photographs is just basically, you know, framing a scene in a way that conveys, that conveys a certain story, okay? And the simpler you keep it, the better. The more, you know, people sometimes feel like they have to put this in the frame and that and add that. And actually, in reality, the simpler your photograph, the more meaningful and powerful it becomes. So it's all about simplicity. So I feel that photography really boils down to just three basics, and that's light, composition, and then editing. And editing can mean two different things. You know, when you actually take a picture, when you frame a camera and you point it at something and you decide to point it there and not here, when you decide to include this person and not that person, or that animal or that landscape, you're already editing what you're going to put in this photograph, because you know, something caught your eye, you want to take a picture of it, you want to convey a certain message, you're already editing in your head. But editing also means, you know, using Photoshop or filters or presets, which are really popular right now, and things like that. So that's basically what editing means. I will tell you guys this: when you start with a good photo, editing is a breeze and takes a few seconds. But when you take a poor photo and then try to edit it into something that, you know, it's never going to become, it's just very frustrating. It might take you too long. So the way I work is I always try to take the best possible picture in camera when I'm shooting. And then when I edit, I just add it, basically, I look at it as adding a little bit of a flair to the final photograph, making it my own, conveying a certain style. But I don't take a picture and then hope that editing will fix it later. So always start with the best possible picture. So again, light, composition, and editing, that is all that it boils down to. So let's talk about light. I think light is one of the most important out of the three, and it can instantly improve your photos if you know what to look for. So I wrote this, you know, start with great light, okay? There are different qualities that a light conveys, and we know this because we see, you know, when you wake up in the morning, there's a sunrise, then throughout the day, you know, it's sunny or cloudy or whatever, but it's more of a harsh light, and then towards the end, as the sun is going down, you start to see the soft light again, and we see different colors when the light changes. So usually pre-dawn light is a little bit cool. You know, sunrise is orangey, but you know, maybe not as orangey as a sunset. Then middle of the day, you just see these blue skies and colors popping, and then towards the end of the day, everything becomes more soft, more muted. So here's a picture I took in Maui. The sun was setting. It was beautiful light, beautiful moment. Everything was kind of these pastel colors. And by the way, guys, just so you know, my photos are edited, but they're minimal editing, like I mentioned before. So most of it is kind of how you see it. That's how it was. So photographers are famous for shooting during golden hour. And I don't know if you ever heard of it, but golden hour is basically sunrise and sunset, and also the time that's right before sunrise and then right after sunset. no matter what you're shooting or what your skills are, if you decide to take a portrait or do a photo shoot around that time, the golden hour, your photos will instantly be better. Okay, because the quality of the light is produces richer colors, softens the shadows. There's no harshness, eliminates harshness. So if you want to do one thing right away where you get a better photo, is to kind of plan your shoot around the golden hour. Okay, then we're going to talk a little bit about open shade and then window lighting. Okay, so golden hour, again, it's the sunset, sunrise, and before and after. As you can see in the little photo here, it's the sky just lit up in pinks. This is right after the sun was set. So a lot of people will, when they go shoot the sunset, the moment the sun is gone, they'll pack up and leave. And I would encourage you guys to stay longer, because a lot of times right after the sun goes down completely behind the horizon is when you really see the colors pop and the sky light up on fire. So I always stay late until it's almost dark. Here's some examples of photographs taken during golden hour. And I purposely put like a landscape photo there, a portrait of myself that my best friend took of me in Turkey, and then a photograph that was taken just before dawn in Guatemala, just one of my a red dress project I'm doing. But if you guys can see, when it comes to the landscape photo, this is Table Mountain in Cape Town in South Africa, which is a beautiful landscape. Obviously the landscape is beautiful, we know it. But if I had taken the same photograph in the middle of the day, I guarantee you guys it would look very different, have a very different feel to it, and probably would not get as much attention as a photo taken right after sunset. Okay. And something I wanted to mention, as it gets darker, you may need a tripod, but most of the time you don't, because the cameras now, even the iPhone cameras, are very they able to work very well in lower light, so you should be fine. I probably did use a tripod in this picture, but I most likely would have been okay if I didn't have it either. I wanted to show you guys, so the portrait of myself was taken right after the sunset. And if you guys need to go and take pictures, for your social media, some portraits or whatever it needs to be, even semi-professional photographs, this is one of the best times to take a portrait where it's going to make you look really nice, because the light is very soft. There's no artificial light in this picture. There's no flash. I don't use flash ever. It's just a personal choice. It's just too, I don't want to carry it. It's just too much for me. So all these photographs are taken in natural light. So if you guys notice, there's like a beautiful pink glow on my face, and that's all because the sun has set and the clouds and just the quality of light is shining beautifully, it making the skin tones like amazing. So if I ever want like a good picture of myself, I kind of plan it around right after sunset and just take lots and lots of pictures within that short time frame, but I just maximize that time. The picture on the bottom was taken in Guatemala. That's right before sunrise. You can see the difference between the sunrise and the sunset photos. The sunsets are definitely warmer, richer. The pre-dawn light is kind of cool, but it's also a very soft light. So if my face was shown, it would also eliminate those shadows and eyes being too dark or whatnot. Okay. Now, open shade is something, it's a concept, it's a very interesting concept that many people are not aware of. So again, I don't shoot with any artificial light. I don't shoot with any flash or any extra, fancy equipment or whatnot. If I want to take a nice portrait of someone, and now it's in the middle of the day. I always try to put the person in like an open shade. What does an open shade means? It means you're outside, but for example, you're under like an awning, or there's a roof somewhere, or in the doorway of a house or whatever. Because the open shade light creates beautiful, beautiful softness to the skin. And I encourage you guys to test this out. I encourage you to go out. Let's say you go out at noon, 12 o'clock, and you take a selfie, and like right in the middle of the day in the sun beaming on your face, and then go into an open shade, go somewhere under a roof or under a tree or whatever, and take that same selfie. And you will see what I mean. The difference will be like just outstanding. You know, in the middle of the day when it's really sunny, you will notice that you have a lot of shadow on your face. It's just not flattering. Like, I don't care how good looking you are, just not flattering. So your eyes may be really dark and you may have a shadow here, like it just doesn't look good. But when you move to an open shade, you'll see the light falls beautifully on your face. Your eyes will catch, I don't know if you guys can see in these two portraits of the little girls. This was actually taken in a refugee camp in Jordan. But if you notice, their eyes are glowing. And again, I didn't add anything to the eyes. It was just that beautiful open shade light that creates what we call catch lights in the eyes. Whenever you take portraits of someone, your children, your friends, your family, or yourself, you want those catch lights in the eyes. It makes the picture pop really well. So that's just two examples. Window doorway light has a similar characteristic to the open shade light. It again eliminates the harsh shadows. You can see there's two examples I have here. One is of my good friend Sonia. We were sitting in a cafe. There was a beautiful big window. Guys, I'm sorry. I'm just going to let my dog out. She's driving me crazy. Sorry about that. I have 3 dogs and they are obnoxious, loving but obnoxious. So I just put her in front of this beautiful window. The light just nicely hit her face, eliminated the shadows. And the little girl in the other picture, this was taken in a dance school in Cuba. There was a big, big window. She was kind of like facing the window, and it also created a nice even light that's very flattering to the face. Now, I wanted to talk a little bit about the rule of thirds. This is basically the basic composition rule that we have in photography that will, if you follow it, it will almost immediately improve your photos as well. And the rule of thirds basically takes like the rectangle, which is what the camera frame looks like, and cuts it into squares or rectangles. Whenever you're photographing something, whether it be your child, yourself, a horse, a mountain, whatever it may be, if you put your main subject at the intersection of where the lines crisscross, it just creates a more pleasing composition, okay? So obviously, there's a lot of photographs that break this rule that work very well, but for the, if you just want to follow that, your photos will instantly become better. So in this picture, as you can see, we have examples of beautiful light. This was a sunset light, beautiful oranges, sky is glowing, and a horse on a hill. And the horse is not, I didn't place the horse in the middle. I placed the horse kind of the bottom of the frame, more to the left, and left more space because he's looking that way. So we kind of left more space on that side to show where he's looking. If I had placed this horse right in the middle, of the frame, it just wouldn't have the same effect. And again, I encourage you guys to try to do this when you go out and start taking pictures. Take both, use this composition, and then take a picture when you just put something smack in the middle and see the difference for yourself. Here's another example of a photograph where you see the 2 boys This was in Cuba. There was like kind of a stormy weather, and where they're walking is Malecon. There's a sea behind that wall. There was a lot of sea spray coming through, the clouds in the background. But again, I didn't place them right in the middle. I placed them kind of on the bottom right corner and left more space towards where they're going to follow the rule of thirds, which just creates a more pleasing look when you view photographs. And another example of golden hour, this was taken right before sunrise in Turkey. And again, I placed the hot air balloon sort of near the intersection of the lines versus putting it in the middle. One of the things I want to emphasize as well, moving on, well, this is kind of part of the composition too. When you're taking photographs of people, especially portrait, maybe your children, maybe, people you've met during your travels, get closer. A lot of beginners make the mistake, they stand really far away and they take a picture and the person is like this tiny dot, somewhere you can't even see them. So I always try to get closer. I usually try to take several pictures where I'm close and then I'm also further away, but I almost always find that when I am closer to the people, it creates a more intimate look, and it just makes better pictures. Again, another example of a portrait. And if you guys can see, if you can imagine that rule of thirds that I talked about, you can kind of imagine that being drawn on that photograph, you'll see that the girl's eyes do fall at the intersection of the lines. So this rule of thirds can really be used not just in landscapes, not just in the general, but even for portraits as well. When the eyes kind of fall at the intersection, again, it just creates a more pleasing composition. Keep that in mind when you're taking portraits of yourself, or you're setting up either a tripod or somebody's going to take a photograph for you. You can kind of direct them to do that. I don't know which thing it is, but another thing that will improve your photography instantly is paying attention to your backgrounds. Okay, guys, this is super, super important. I cannot emphasize this enough. So a lot of times, sometimes you'll see a great picture of someone, but they'll have like a pole coming out of their head because there was a pole behind, or a palm tree or something like that. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that when you take a picture, whether it's of yourself or of someone else, that the background is not cluttered, okay? If the background is cluttered, it can actually really, really kill your photograph. So what I do is I try to pick either, if it's just a simple portrait, I try to either pick a neutral color of a wall with a neutral color, or maybe some leaves in the background, but not like tree branches coming out or anything like that, because you want the focus to be on the subject that you're photographing. So I put two examples here. One is a portrait I took of a friend. I intentionally moved her against a white wall. And also in this picture, if you guys, you wouldn't be able to tell, but this is also an open shade. I moved her, she was at my house, and where the entryway is, there's like a roof. So I said, Carly, let's move over here. She wanted me to take some portraits of her. So I actually moved her underneath the roof against a white wall, just to create simple, pleasing portraits with catch lights in the eye and kind of put emphasis on her face and like that. The other picture I took of my goddaughter, we were outside and she was visiting from New York, and she found this beautiful leaf that she wanted me to take a picture of. So I moved her, so the background, we were outside, so there was a lot of leaves and a lot of trees, but I moved her kind of in front of these palm trees. It complemented the leaf, but it wasn't so distracting that she had like stuff coming out of her head. So always pay attention to your backgrounds. Here's another, I took a portrait of my best friend with a horse in Iceland. You know, I wanted to make sure, and sometimes if you cannot move the person to a better background, what you do is you move yourself. So try taking pictures of your subject from different angles and note, because sometimes if you move an inch, it makes a big difference. Sometimes you don't even have to move that much, but in terms of a photograph, it actually makes a very big difference. So I wanted to make sure that even though there was like mountains behind her and things like that, I wanted to make sure that the sky was uncluttered, you know, that the sky, whatever was behind her was uncluttered, and kind of put emphasis on her and the horse. Here are some pictures I took for my friend Jacqueline and for her. She wanted me to take some pictures for her brand. She's a physician entrepreneur, and she's wanted some photographs that she can use for social media. So we actually went outside. I took some portraits. Again, the sky was overcast, which was perfect. It didn't create those harsh shadows. It's kind of the open shade type of concept. And she wanted to do some photographs with her doing yoga. So again, I moved somewhere. She lives in a community where there was a lot of cars, but we looked for a spot where all you had was just some trees in the back, but no cars, you know, no light poles, nothing like that. So the emphasis could be put on her and the yoga poses. This kind of also brings me to, you know, we're all kind of self-conscious when we photograph, when we take pictures, when we take portraits. And let me tell you guys, angles are everything, okay? You know, how can I put this? I think anyone can, if we know how to, what angle to position ourselves in and how to pose a little bit, you know, not that it's like great looks fake, but kind of know how to stand. We can definitely improve the way we look in photos, okay? There's certain things you almost never want to do. I don't care who you are, if you're a supermodel or whatnot, it doesn't matter. There's certain ways you don't want to photograph yourself. So let's talk about angles a little bit, because if you know this concept, it can instantly improve your self-portraits and your photography. So I'll tell you guys a couple of ways how you don't want to photograph yourself, okay? So number one, you almost never want to take a photograph from like a low angle. And it's very funny because a lot of times, you know, even I go through this frustration. Let's say me and my friends are hanging out and we just want to take a photograph, and we ask someone to take a picture of us. And they immediately kneel down to take a picture. And it drives me insane, okay? Because when you go down, whatever, you know, you're kind of emphasizing the lower part of your body, okay? So all of a sudden we have these huge hips, and you know, our stomachs are bigger than what it is. And I'm always like, why are you kneeling down? Just take a picture. But so there are times when, you know, perhaps you want to achieve a certain look, you know, whatever, that you may want to go shoot from below, but you almost never want to do that. So even when you're taking a selfie, I'm going to show you guys. So you take a camera and you don't want to go like this, right? Where the camera's kind of below you, because then you have the double chin and then you look bigger than you actually are. And it's just not flattering. So what I'll do a lot of times is I'll go a little bit higher. Now, the higher angle will kind of slim the face and create a much more pleasing look. And I implement this not just when I take selfies with my phone, but also when I take pictures for my friends. So I took this picture of my, you know, Monica and Jacqueline, and you can kind of see that I'm slightly above them. So that means that if I'm shooting with a regular camera, sometimes I'll stand on like a step stool, or I will take a chair and go a little bit higher. I try to just go above them a little bit, because it kind of gives a direct shot to their eyes, emphasizes their eyes, and it slims the face. Now, you almost never want to also, I mean, sometimes you do, but if you want to look more flattering, try to, you put your chin down a little bit and you kind of go sideways. So it's not head on like this, because that's also not flattering. And that brings me to full body shots, okay? I put these in there, you guys, just so you can see how I've learned this over time, how to photograph myself. Photographers talk a lot about something called the S shape. So for some reason, I'm sure there's a scientific reason behind this, but the S shape is a very flattering shape for everything in life, everything in nature, including ourselves, including stuff like, whatever we find in nature and things like landscapes and things like that. So you want to try to kind of create this S shape when you're taking full body photographs. As you can see in the picture on the left, in my bathing suit in Iceland, this was the famous Blue Lagoon in Iceland. I didn't just stand like straight like this and said, hey, take my picture. I intentionally turned my body sideways and put my arm out like this, because the arm, if you can see, kind of creates the S shape, and my body is a little bit more S shape, curvy, not just this straight back, straight arm that looks awkward, unnatural, and unflattering. So whenever possible, if you're able to create sort of an S shape, you should try to do that. The other picture kind of demonstrates that as well. You want to bend your arms, put them in a more, don't have the arms like this, don't have them against your body. You want to leave a little space along the trunk. You want to maybe bend your elbow and turn sideways. It will always create a more flattering full body portrait than just standing there like this and, having the arms just kind of hang down. So that's pretty much for, those are like very basic stuff about posing, but if you guys implement that, your pictures will instantly become better. Now, let's talk about editing a little more. I kind of mentioned, you edit when you take a picture, and then you edit after you take a picture. Again, I cannot emphasize enough that taking the best picture right there and then in camera is the best thing you can do for yourself and your subjects. And then, you edit to your own liking, to your own taste, but you're not spending hours doing it and trying to fix something that you may never be able to fix that went wrong in the first place. So a couple of things. If your picture is not sharp, you cannot make an unsharp picture sharp. Okay, so if you moved your arm when you took a picture, or somebody bumped you, or the light wasn't great and the picture is blurry, you cannot fix that. Okay, toss that picture, just forget it. I've taken plenty of blurry pictures that I was like, oh my God, what, it's such a great picture, if only it was sharp. Now what I do, instead of ruminating on it and crying about it, which I have done in the past, I just delete the picture. Forget it. You're not going to be able to fix it. So make sure you have a sharp picture first. I like to keep my editing simple. And what does it really mean? Editing can kind of bring out the colors. You can change the colors a little bit. You can make colors pop. You can sharpen a sharp picture, which will make it pop more, but you have to start with the sharp picture. So I try to edit as minimally as possible, and there's many, many ways to edit photos and many programs to use. The most famous, I'm sure you guys heard of, are Photoshop and Lightroom. Now, I use both, but I don't use them extensively, which means I just kind of use them for sharpening, contrast, color boost, things like that. Both of those have an iPhone version that is free, okay? So I use them on my phone and I use them on my desktop, okay? In addition to Photoshop Lightroom, there are many different kinds of apps that are good for editing pictures, okay? And I wrote the most common ones here, and I'll tell you guys which one I use the most. So the iPhone, I don't know how many of you use iPhones. I'm an iPhone user. I don't know much about Samsung or the other brands, so I can't speak for that. But I know that the iPhone Photos app itself, you can edit your photos there. They have like a filter function, and they have sharpness, exposure, things like that. So you can always play. Sometimes it actually works very well. I There are days when I'll just use that. I don't even go into any other app. I try to simplify my life as much as I can. And that's one of the ways I simplify my life, is just to keep the editing process simple. My second favorite thing to edit with is it's what's called ViscoCam. I don't know if you guys know of ViscoCam. It's just a photo editing app. It's also kind of I believe they have their own like social media component. I don't use it as much, but you can post to it, and you can have a following and things like that. I don't use it for that purpose. I just use it for basically editing. And they have some, I believe they have free version, and then there's a paid version. The paid version wasn't much, if anything, maybe $5.99 or something for life. They utilize the exposure, the contrast, the color boost, everything, but they also utilize filters. Okay, sure, you guys are familiar with filters. Filters have become super popular over the years. Really, what filters are just a way that the photo was sharpened, contrast was added, tint was added to it, whatever that may be. It's just a way that they edit photo, but they made it simple because you do it with one click. So ViscoCam has like hundreds of filters that you can use, and they're a lot of fun, and I do use them, and I do appreciate it a lot, and it's super user friendly. Lightroom, Photoshop, I mentioned. There's an app version, free, pretty easy to use. You just kind of load your photos, you add them, and again, you kind of do the same thing. In the end, it's all the same thing. Snapseed is what a lot of photographers use. I use it occasionally. I don't always use it. And then we have Instagram. Instagram actually has their own. I'm sure if you guys use Instagram, they have their own editing, sharpness, exposure, contrast, and there's some filters that some of them I feel personally they're overboard. But if you like tone it down a little bit, it can add a little bit of a flair to your photos and make them pop more. I think it's perfectly okay to use them. I think in the end, whatever you want to use, you should use, because it's your own vision, your own creativity. So, don't feel bad. Oh, this person said don't use Instagram filters. Who cares? It's your vision, your pictures. You do what you want. So I thought a lot about what I wanted to tell you guys, what I wanted to discuss with you guys. And really, you can't teach photography in an hour, but I promise you guys that if you kind of implement the few things that I mentioned, it's going to improve the look of your photos right away. And, perhaps the way your social media looks, or whatever the purposes you have that you use photography. But I do run a photography and travel blog. There are some articles. I gave Stephanie a couple of links. I wrote 2 blog posts on where I go into more depth on the things we just talked about. So there's one blog post about, ways to elevate your phoniography, which is taking pictures with your phone, which I'm a big, big fan of. Our phones are always on us. We almost always have it with us. So if you just know how to utilize it well, your photos are going to be great, even though it's just a phone camera. And the phone cameras are getting better and better. So that was one post. And then the second post I wrote was why you should not buy a fancy camera. And that kind of goes back to what I mentioned in the beginning. So I invite you guys, if you want to read up more on this, if you want to learn more, and if you want to see some of the travel stuff I put out there. A couple of things I've been doing. One of the, obviously I'm not traveling because of the pandemic, but I've been doing a project on COVID, photography project on COVID. I'm, taking pictures kind of in the hospital. You gotta do what you gotta do. And I thought this was an opportunity for me to document life of an ER physician on the pandemic. So if you're interested in that, you can look. And if you guys have any questions that you want to ask me specifically, or if you want to ask me about a photograph or anything, please feel free to reach out to me. Message me either on Instagram. I use Instagram the most. I am on Facebook. I use Facebook. It's not my favorite medium, but I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram. Instagram probably the most. And then you can message me directly through my blog as well. If you guys need help with anything at all, please just reach out to me, and I promise I will get back to you and try to help you with whatever you need when it comes to photography. Let's see. I think that's it. Now, if you do some questions.
Thank you. Yeah. One question here is, what do you think is the best way to take pictures for those who wear eyeglasses?
Very good point. Okay. So reflections can be an issue. I've had, I've seen this happen a lot. I think if you go into an open shade, you're going to eliminate a lot of this, because the light is so even that I believe that it also eliminates, the kind of the glare where we can't see your eyes. Flash is a no-no, because what it will do is it may actually bounce off of the glasses and just create, like, you won't be able to see your eyes at all. Open shade for sure. No harsh light. Maybe if you can put down the glasses a little, like, you kind of have to play with them and see. Take a selfie, move the glasses, see which light is best. There are ways you can try to utilize what I talked about to eliminate the glare from the glasses.
Awesome. Thank you. And then someone asked, any tips you have while using a studio ring light? So a lot of us use a ring light. I'm standing in front of a ring light. So any tips for those who are using a ring light for their photos?
So I'm not super familiar with it, guys, because like I said, I actually don't really use like supplemental light. What I do when I take pictures indoors, I try to use the open window light. Okay. So let's say, I have shades. I'll open the shades all the way and let that natural light hit me. Okay. That's what I do. I don't know if the ring light, from what I do know though, is I would kind of try to decrease the intensity of the ring light. I'm not sure if some of them allow you to do that, but if you can decrease it so it's not like super bright. I mean, what I believe is they're designed to make you look better, to kind of brighten up all the wrinkles or whatever it may be. But if you can reduce the intensity, it's probably better. Yeah, you just have to play with it and see, when you look at the result, be like, okay, does this look good or not? Am I happy with that or not? But yeah, if you're frustrated with it and you just want to try window light, I think it works very well.
And then she said, because she just said, what if it's gloomy outside when the lighting is not that bad?
Okay, so gloomy outside is great for you guys. Okay, this is one of the misconceptions. People are like, oh, there's clouds. I'm gonna tell you guys that for portraits, I'm talking about portraits, it's one of the best light. It kind of goes along the line of an open shade. What the clouds do is they create the clouds are like a diffuser. A lot of photographers in studio use diffusers. We have diffusers and it's clouds. Okay. And actually, even though it's counterintuitive, you're like, oh, it's cloudy, there's no sun. I'm telling you, it's actually very good for portraits. So you can try that. If the photo is too dark initially, what you may do is when you edit the photo, increase your exposure. So you take the photo, let's say you're outside, you take a selfie or you take a portrait, it looks a little dark. Go to the editing, either in the phone or on the app, click on exposure and just slide it to the right, and it will brighten up the photo.
Awesome. Somebody is asking, what do you think of the portrait settings on the iPhone, specifically the zoom in and blurred background? I guess they're asking if they think if you think that's a good feature to use.
Yes, I do. I actually do like them. I do use them. I think that the photo of my goddaughter that I showed with the leaf, I used that portrait mode that was taken with an iPhone. I do like it a lot. It does blur the background. And you know, if you have a really distracting background and you can't move anywhere, it's perfect. Use it because it'll kind of make everything more even. So yes, I do like it. I do like that feature a lot.
Someone asked, and I guess they're just clarifying. So, is an iPhone an alternative to taking good pictures? But it sounds like you've said that several
Yes.
times. That an iPhone
Yes,
is
absolutely, guys. If you know your basics, what light to look for, what composition, how to edit a little bit, the iPhone is a perfect tool, or the Samsung, whatever phone you have, is a perfect tool for taking perfectly good photos. I've taken some amazing photos with my iPhone. And if you guys check out my blog post on ways to elevate your iPhoneography, you will see that all the examples I put in are all iPhone photos.
Yeah. And I would agree. I mean, everything that I've seen out there, a lot of people are just using their iPhones, because the camera quality just keeps getting better and better, especially,
Exactly.
we're now coming out with a new iPhone in the fall, and it's going to be even better than what it is. It's like every year it's like they come out with a new, better
Absolutely.
technology.
I mean, I'm telling you guys, I don't know, but maybe one day the DSLR will become, obsolete. It's
Yeah.
very possible. I don't know.
Luke said, how do you get better? Oh, wait. It says most phones have an auto setting. Do you recommend using the auto setting?
Auto setting as in, is it phones or cameras? Because cameras do have auto setting.
He said phones. So I'll have him clarify
I'm
on
not sure about the phones. I feel like the phones are just,
there.
you just point and shoot. A lot of the cameras do have an auto setting. I actually do recommend it at the beginning, especially when you're learning photography, when you don't, again, we went over very, very few basics.
Mhm.
If you don't really know that much about photography, it's perfectly okay to use auto settings. Cameras are very smart these days. They actually take pretty good exposures on the auto setting. And again, if you just know the few basic, what light is good, what composition works,
Right.
how to pose myself, then auto setting is perfectly okay. I definitely encourage people to start with that, especially so you don't get bogged down with all the features that are just too intimidating.
Yes. Another question here, it says, does focus process follow the rule of thirds? I'm not sure. Are you familiar? I don't know what she might be talking about, or if he should,
So
talking about focus process.
I'm not sure the focus process, but I think I know what she's getting at. Um, Basically, I think it has to do with on the cameras, what you focus on. There's like a function where you have to move the focus depending on what you're focusing on. There's two ways to do that. You either pre-focus, keep holding the shutter button halfway, and then move to where you actually want the composition to be. It'll remain focused. Or you move the actual square that focuses. You have to move it physically in the camera, and it will focus it that way. So I'm not sure if that's exactly what the question is asking, but yeah, sometimes, let's say I want to photograph this pen, and the pen is in the middle and I cannot move. So what I'm going to do is pre-focus on this pen, meaning I press the shutter halfway, it'll focus, and I keep it there, but then I move the camera so the pen now is in the corner. It'll still be in focus.
Okay, yeah, that is what she's asking, she said.
And certain cameras, and actually the certain phones too, you can lock that focus. Like phone, I know if let's say you're taking a picture, you're taking a picture, and then I take a picture of this, and then you put the finger to the camera, it'll focus on that object. If you just hold it there, it'll flash twice, it'll lock that focus. Now you can move the phone, but that object will still be in focus.
Okay, yeah, I didn't know that. That's good to
Yeah,
know.
it's a nifty thing.
Yeah, that's really good to know. Yeah, no, thank you so much. I mean, guys, what I would advise, especially, you'll see that when you're able to take advantage, you know, when you have good lighting, take advantage and take multiple photos.
Yes.
You know, a lot of us, and I think you've heard this even from when Jazz and the Star, creating a photo bank, you know, of just you know, this is what we do when we hire a photographer to shoot with us. We're literally creating a photo bank. And so whenever you have that good lighting, whenever you're able to get outside during that golden hour, you know, or whenever even, and even like my house has a lot of natural light coming in, and I still prefer the golden hour even in my house, you know, because the lighting just is really amazing coming in, you know, just at that time. And so, you know, what I would say is that just get into the habit of when you are out and about, when you are dressed up, when you're traveling, you know, right now we're not traveling as much, but still we're going out and about, and, you know, to really take as many photos as you can with your phone. And
Absolutely, guys. Like I totally will agree with that. You know, sometimes what I'll do is I'll have shoot days. You know, I need to create more content for my social media or whatever that may be. So I say, okay, this day I'm just shooting, and I'll plan my day around the golden hour and all that. And I'll just take multiple photos and just keep them there. I don't have to share all of them right away, or to share them at different times, especially for your brand, for your business, for your social media. That's the best thing to do, you know. And again, guys, don't be afraid of the overcast days are amazing for portraits, I'm telling you.
awesome. Well, thank you so much, Megan. This was very helpful, and I hope that everyone got some small tips, something that they can take away to improve. As you can see, guys, photography is something that you need that takes practice. It's not something. It's like when you want to learn how to swim, you can learn about all the techniques of like swimming all you can, but until you get thrown in the water and you're actually playing around with it and you're like trying. But it's the same thing very much so with photography. You know, so like she said, go out and try, see how the photo is when it's pre-dawn or in the evening, and you'll see it's crystal clear, and you'll get the idea of like, okay, this is why I see lighting is important. And using all the natural lighting that you may have in your home, opening the shades, opening the windows, you know, getting closer to the windows if it's a darker day, so you have more natural light, you know, hitting your face. But it just takes, you know, being intentional. You know, photography, you have to be intentional about photography.
And let me tell you guys, those beautiful photos you see, you think like, oh, they just went there, they showed up and they took a photo and it looks like that. I guarantee you guys, it is not like that. They thought about this way beforehand, you know, what dress am I going to wear? Where am I going to take the picture? What time of the day? I mean, listen, there's a, you know, there is such a thing as candid photography, and, you know, photography, you know, randomly you happen to take a great picture because you were somewhere. And that does happen. But I guarantee you guys, 80-90% of the time, even the candid photography, like when photographers go out on the street and they shoot street, they position themselves in certain corners, okay? Because that corner has better light than the one next door. They don't just walk and, you know, they know, okay, that corner is better, so I'm going to stand there for 30 minutes because something interesting may happen. So you increase your chances. You want to increase your chances. There's no such thing as just showing up, taking photo. The photo looks amazing. That happens like once in, you know, out of 100. But if you pre-plan and you plan your time, you plan your outfit, you plan how you're going to do this, your success rate will be a lot higher.
Absolutely. I mean, that's one of the things, even, you know, that's just just from working with several different photographers, or even when we go to a new hotel or anything, it's like, yeah, it's looking at scouting for good locations,
Yes.
thinking in your neighborhood, thinking around your home, you know, thinking, you know, where can I shoot in my neighborhood, in my city that has, a lot of you have really beautiful, you're in beautiful cities right now, you know, take advantage of the time and go out and shoot in the streets, you know, look for really interesting backgrounds. You know, Ashley had a really beautiful photo shoot, you know, just graffiti, you know, really beautiful, like colorful, you know,